So my test score wasn't so great. I wasn't the best in secondary school, right?
Okay.
I wasn't top three, I wasn't top five, I wasn't top seven. Quite average, to be honest. In primary school, I've never been first, second, or third. Even in secondary school, never first, second, or third, never.
Wow.
But now I'm one of the best.
Hello, everyone. My name is Giwa Eniton, and welcome to another online mentorship program on TICU, where we interview students who have excelled in the academics, spiritual life, and even the social life. And the main purpose of this program is to inspire you, motivate you, and tell you techniques and tips that you can make use of to ace your exams, to excel well in every exams, every of your courses. And on today's episode, we decided to take a different form by sending in links to see you students to fill, ask the questions, and those are the questions we're going to be asking our interview today. So on today's episode, we have a student who has excelled in academics, spiritual life, and even in social life. And joining me is...
My name is Ogunyankin Daniel, and I'm a 300 level computer science.
So Daniel,
Yeah.
our first question for today is, what study technique is best for you for retentive memory, especially when you're close to your test or your exams?
Alright. So what I do is this: I read the notes,
Mm-hmm.
I remove the slide, I read a slide, move it, then I try to recollect what that slide was about.
Okay.
I try to understand what that slide is saying,
Mm-hmm.
and then I write and I try to write it down in my own words.
Words.
So
Yeah.
basically, I'm remembering the same thing like 3 times, and
Okay.
that keeps it in my long-term memory.
I think that also works for me. Like, I think when you're almost close to your exams, you should be able to read a particular slide, now interpret it in your own words so you
Yeah,
can also understand what that
yeah,
slide was talking about.
exactly.
Because there's sometimes you might not remember what the lecturer taught or something, but if you remember in your own words, then it makes it very simple for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, moving on to our second question, it says, so my question is, I am currently on a 2-1, a 4.1 CGPA, and I'm hoping to graduate with a first class, maybe a 4.5,
Okay.
and I'm in my 300 level with a 4-year course. Is it still possible? How can I redeem myself when exams are so close and my tests were completely bad for me?
Well, first of all, the first thing I'll say is try your best to forget your past, right? Your test didn't go well. You have you have made a lot of mistakes, things like that. But that shouldn't affect your future, right? I usually say something. The past, we don't have control over it.
Very true.
The future, we have little control over it.
Very
But
true.
the present, we have total control over the present. So forget your past and focus on yourself now. What can I do now to ensure that I get this grade?
Great.
So now you want to finish with a first class. So I advise you to believe in yourself. Believe that you can actually do it. You can look at me, for example. Um, I I wasn't the best in secondary school, right?
Okay.
I wasn't top three, I wasn't top five, I wasn't top seven. So I
Wow.
wasn't the best. So what happened when I entered this university? I had to forget my past, so it
Okay.
wouldn't hold me down, right? And so I saw possibilities.
Okay.
I remember them telling us in an orientation that a girl graduated with a 5.0 Cgpa.
Yes.
So that was a possibility that this thing is actually possible. So I advise you to forget your past and focus on the present. Do everything necessary in the present to make sure you arrive at the future that you want.
Once, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that answers the question greatly. So your past doesn't define you. You can always move on, always strive more, like strive better. And I think I remember you just said someone motivated him with a CGP of 5.0.
Yeah.
That is the same way also motivating you with this interview that you can do it and you can make it in your academics, your spiritual life, and even your social life. So our third question from today on today's episode is, what can I do to stop distractions? So this makes, maybe this person gets distracted by lots of things.
Okay.
So what can a person do to stop these distractions?
So what I'll say about this is know yourself. If you don't know any other thing, we should know ourselves.
So it's very true.
So figure out what distracts you. For me, I can't read in a place where people are moving around. My eyes won't be able to focus. So I go to a secluded place. I put on my earpiece
Yes.
and I listen to music, so it helps me focus. And I know this because I know myself.
So yeah,
So you need to know yourself. What actually distracts you?
what works for you?
What works for you exactly? So I think that's just it. That's just it.
Just
Yeah.
know what works for you. That, oh, if I do this, this is distracting me.
Yeah.
If I don't do this, okay, this makes me focus.
Mhm.
Yeah. So another question for today is, how long do you read in a day, and what should my time goal be when I'm reading?
Okay, before I answer this question, we should know that it's not always how long you read.
True.
It's your mindset towards reading.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for me, I have the ability to focus for long periods of time.
Wow.
So I can read from between 4 to 6 hours every day.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could use the Pomodoro technique, right?
So
So you're reading for like about 25 minutes, take a break, come back, 25 minutes, take a break,
okay.
and repeat. So just know yourself. It just goes back to
Know
just know
yourself.
yourself. Because if you don't know yourself, you copy what other people are doing, which may not work for you. So know yourself and use the technique that works best for you. That's just it.
So moving on to the next question. And this question says, how do you handle anxiety or stress during exam period?
During exam period, anxiety and stress. Well, I just try my best to remain in the present. Don't think too much about the exams. I
Okay.
mean, and also if you're a child of God, I think that gives you a real advantage.
Very
Like
true.
you're able to trust God
Go ahead.
and His ability to make you succeed in every situation. So I just stay in the present. Don't think too much about the future. And even if you think about the future, you should think in terms of victory. Like exams will be awesome for me. I will get this so and so GPA and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, I think this question is kind of relating to what you just answered. So
Right.
you said, what is your motivation? What motivation works for you during exam? Like, what do you tell yourself and you get ginger during exams?
Okay, so my motivation for even striving for 5.0 is that I want to be able to impact lives, right? Through my story. I wasn't the best before,
Yeah.
but now I'm one of the best. So it's kind of a testimony, right? So I'm doing what I'm doing not necessarily because of myself, but because of the people around me. Like I have 4 siblings, and I want to make sure they have a good example to follow.
Fair, fair.
Yeah, and even if you're not the firstborn, I mean, you have a lot of people. I'm very sure you have some people in your life that you don't want to lay down.
Very
So
true.
you could use them as motivation, because I've come to observe that when you use ourselves as motivation,
Very
that motivation is short-lived.
true.
But
Okay.
when our motivation is other people,
Okay.
that motivation is lasting. So focus on the people around you. Try your best to impact their lives, and don't always do things for your own
Benefits.
benefit.
Very true. That was a very brilliant answer. And that moves us to our next question. And it says, how do you balance your academic studies with other commitments like social life, other activities, part-time job to still maintain a good result?
Time management.
Time
That's it.
management.
Time
Time
management.
management is key.
Time
Yeah.
management. That's just it. There's so many things chasing our attention, right?
Very true.
And I heard something from Dr. Azu recently.
As
He
in,
said that time is our currency, and attention is how we spend it.
very
There's so
true.
many things chasing your attention. Everything wants
Yeah.
you this that, that. But once you have a timetable, or what you are doing part time, you are less distracted. I
Okay.
mean, you know what to do at a particular
That
time,
time.
not as if you are doing random things. So have a timetable. Time management is very key if you want to avoid distractions.
Instructions.
Yeah.
I feel another thing that can also help can be a to-do list. A to-do list that can help you. Oh, these are things I need to achieve this particular day.
Yeah.
Then you tick it out.
Yeah.
Then yeah, that also works
Also
for
works. Also
someone.
works.
So okay, another question is, have you ever faced unexpected challenges during an exam, and how did you handle it?
Okay, yeah. There was one time that I was writing an exam,
Okay,
and
what
then
course?
I was a programming course, C++.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so hmm, I saw number one, I didn't know it. I saw number two, I didn't know it.
Wow.
I saw number three, I knew it small. At that point, I was like, what is going on? I read for this thing, what is going on? So at that point, I just stopped. I just stopped what I was doing. I dropped my
Okay.
pen. I I controlled my breathing, relaxed my mind, prayed to God.
Okay.
Then I looked at the questions again, and they became very clear,
Easy.
and I answered everything.
So having a relationship with God and
Yeah,
praying
yeah,
will also help you and bring to your memory. Very
yes,
same.
definitely.
So with everything that you've achieved, a 5.0
Yeah,
CGPA, time management and everything,
yeah.
is there someone you look up to like, okay, this is the person that is my mentor, like, oh, I look up to this person and this person has done it and that's why me too, I'm also able to achieve this. Or,
Oh, oh, number one, I don't exactly have a mentor right now,
okay,
but as I said before, one of my major motivations is impacting people
okay,
and the fact that I'm a child of God. But another thing that motivates me is the fact that somebody has done this before,
and you
right?
can also do
So I
it.
can also do it.
Very true.
So as for mentor, I don't really have a mentor right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
So do you think you're going to still have a mentor? Like,
yeah, most likely, most likely,
okay,
I'll have a mentor.
okay. So this question is quite funny. The person's asking you, were you always smart from primary school? Like you have a 5.0 CGPA now. Have you been smart since? Okay.
So I've said this before.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't the best. I wasn't the best. I was quite average, to be honest. In primary school, I've never been first, second, or third. Even in secondary school, never first, second, or third, never.
Wow.
So it's really why I said you have to forget your past. Like you have to realize that your present matters so much more
Mm-hmm.
than your past.
Very true.
So whatever you do now is your new future.
Mm-hmm.
So focus on the present
Mm-hmm.
to gain something in the future. Forget the past. Like there's nothing you can do about the past.
Very true. Has
So
been done.
exactly it has been done. So focus on the present and start from there. That's it.
So you don't always have to be smart from the start
You don't
before
have
you
to
have your
start.
so yeah. And our next question will be, okay, do you ever think that teaching others can contribute to you retaining knowledge? Like I teach you, then I'm also getting from what I'm teaching
Yeah,
you. Do you think?
definitely, definitely. Sometimes after my reading, I understand, but then when I teach somebody, I understand better. I don't know. I even find things I maybe overlooked when I was reading myself. I find out by teaching
Other
somebody.
people
So yeah, it really helps. Teaching people really helps.
helps. Okay. So have you ever faced maybe okay, this is not a personal question. Have you ever faced difficulty in teaching someone like they want to get from you, but maybe they don't like your teaching method or something? Like have you ever faced a difficulty in teaching that person?
Maybe the person isn't really understanding what I'm teaching.
Teaching.
And I always try my best to, you know, explain more. I put in time. I try my best to make sure the person understands.
Then
But if the person still doesn't understand, I refer the person to maybe materials I've used, maybe
okay.
YouTube videos, people that taught me,
Okay.
right? Instead of wasting any more time.
Okay. So those people that taught you, they can be referred to as your mentors.
No, they're not my mentors.
Okay.
They're not
Okay.
my mentors.
So okay, I think this question is kind of late into the one. So it says, what study material or resources do you make use of aside from the notes you're being given? And how many hours do you read in a day? Okay,
I've
and
said it before, I'm capable of reading 4 to 6 hours in a day.
46.
And as for
Okay.
materials, I usually use YouTube. Aside from the notes, I use YouTube. I just go online, search for the topic, and something always pops. I mean, it's Google. Something always
So
pops out. So
do you
yeah,
think while searching can distract you? Like while searching for oh this and that. Like when you're online,
yeah.
you're searching for this, another message can pop up and you're like, okay, let me reply to this person. So it can distract someone. So do you think someone should limit themselves to just printed copies? Oh,
No, don't limit yourself because I mean the internet is where most of the information is.
very true.
So you really don't want to limit yourself to printed materials. And as for social media distracting you, I think most social medias nowadays have disable notifications,
Very true.
so you can't even see
The
what
messages.
exactly
Also.
messages. You can't see messages. Discipline is also very important.
Discipline.
Discipline. You have made up your mind to do something at a specific time,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to be conscious that no matter what happens, you will not get distracted.
Okay.
You have to be
Yeah.
very conscious that I'm doing something right now. So anything that pops up right now is a distraction,
Sure.
and I'm not going to allow it.
So whatever you put your mind to do, make sure you achieve it and continue. So the next question is, do you have friends, like friends that
Definitely.
impact you, or it's just, oh, I said I'm going to do it, I'm going to
Nah.
do it. Like,
Funny enough, in 100 level, I tried to do it on my own.
wow.
Yeah, but the thing is, I got the result I wanted. But the thing is, I was, I was always worn out,
Okay.
drained from the stress and everything. But then I found great friends, right? In the circle of friends I'm in,
Okay.
all of us are in a first class, all of us.
Wow.
And two of them that I'm very close to, the lowest CGPA among
Okay.
the three of us is 4.88.
4.88.
4.88.
You can do it.
So yeah, friends are very important, very very important. I mean, there are some things I probably won't be here today if not for them.
Okay.
Yeah, so they've impacted me in a lot of ways. So yeah, friends are very important. Please don't try to do it alone.
Don't try to do
You
it.
you probably run into some errors, and yeah, you don't want that
So making friends is not a bad idea.
at all.
You need friends to be able to achieve one thing or the other. And that's what Daniel shared with us today, that you need friends to be able to move on with the things of life. Because even God created us, He did not create us alone. He created us with people.
Yeah.
So we should have friends. So yes, another question will be, have you ever dealt with a difficult course, and what was that course and why did you give that issue?
Okay, so a difficult course
So you
that
don't think you
was
have a difficult course, no?
no, not really, not really. But
Okay.
one that really shook me was GST 211.
Okay.
That was philosophy and science.
Science.
Yeah. So my test score wasn't so great. Basically, I just looked towards the exam. I mean, the test
Just
is
not
done
define yeah.
exactly. So I just focused on the exam, and I got an A. Thank
You
God.
got an A in
Yeah.
GST. Was there something, one technique you used for that particular course?
No, to be honest, I use the same technique for every course. I read the entire thing, everything. I don't leave any gaps. I read everything.
When you mean read everything, so what
Yeah.
do you mean?
I mean, all the materials will be provided with. Like
Okay.
for example, the GST course, we're given the textbook, we're given notes. Yeah. So I read the textbook, everything I could read. I read
Wow.
the textbook, and I also went on YouTube, watched a few videos to help me gain more knowledge,
Knowledge.
and I wrote them down in my own words. So it kept that in my memory.
So Daniel is telling us that no matter the course, you can always excel
Yeah.
and attain. So
Okay.
moving on to our next question for today. The question says, how do you study for exams, especially calculation courses?
Calculation courses. Oh, I
Mhm.
just practice. I just practice. Do all the examples in the notes. Go to the textbook. Do a lot of examples. I think for calculation courses, it's
Mhm.
about practice. Just
Practice.
do
So
it again
practice
and
makes
again. Yeah,
perfect for you.
yeah.
So
That's just it.
just keep
Just
practicing
keep
and you
practicing.
see yourself getting better. Okay, what if there are some tricky calculation, formulas or something you always have to remember?
Well, you have to understand what you are reading, because sometimes the questions are not straight to the point,
Mm-hmm.
and it will test your knowledge, what you actually know. And if you just crammed, like it won't help you. So it's better to understand what you're reading.
Yeah,
So even if there's a weird question, you can find your way out.
around
Yeah.
it. Okay, so someone says, how did you get A in GST 211? The last question here.
Okay, so my test score for GS2 was 21 over 30.
Wow.
And I just, for that GST, right, I had to really have faith in God,
Okay.
because from the test, I wasn't so sure how the exam would be. But what I did for my part was that I read everything I could read. Everything. I didn't leave any gap. I read everything I could read. And so I just left the rest for God in the exam, and
Got to control.
yeah, got to control.
So you came out with an A in
Yeah,
GST.
by
So
grace
this
of
is a
God.
motivation that there is no course that is too hard.
Yeah,
You can get an A, and don't limit yourself based on maybe what you heard from people or people have told you before.
yeah.
So next question says, if both test scores are average or low, can I still make a first class depending on my exam?
Definitely. I said something to a group of people yesterday.
Okay.
That as long as it's something called 70 over 70, you can get in any course.
Do you think it's possible to get a 70?
I believe so.
You believe
I
so?
believe so. It might not be possible,
Well, there's something
but
they
I believe
always say
so.
in CU that you want to get an A in your exam.
Yeah.
You don't start from your tests, then you already like it.
Hmm.
Like that's a very popular statement. You don't start scribing your test scores, test one and A.
Yeah.
There's a probability you might not meet an A in school.
Yeah.
So do you believe in that?
Oh yes, I believe that if your test scores are not good, your chances of getting A is quite slim.
Okay.
It's shaky. But then I don't rule out the possibility of getting an A, even though your test score was bad. Because last semester I got 18 over 30 in a course, in a general course, GST.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I was shocked. I was like,
Okay.
what? And it was my lowest test score, like over 30, 18. I was like, whoa. But then I just, had faith. I mean, is the reason why I'll say this again, that being a child of God is a big advantage,
Very.
very big
I agree.
advantage. I mean, you have someone to trust in, you have someone to rely on. So I just relied on God that He will help me in the exam, and
And he did.
yeah, He did.
God never disappoints. So now moving on to our next question, it says, what strategy do you use to manage your time during exams? So like you can be given 2 hours during exams. How do you answer question 1, 2, 3? And in school, question 1 is always carrying like an heavy mark.
Yeah.
So how do you give it your all in question 1 and maybe do the rest in 2 and 3?
Well, I feel like if you read a lot and if you read enough, you should be able to answer most of the questions you're asked, right? So even if there are some questions you might not know, like you're answering and then you don't know question one, just move to question two. And yeah, if you read, you should at least be able to answer some of the questions, and you can now go back to the ones you left
So you
behind.
don't know.
And yeah.
Gotcha. So are you part of those people that, when you get to the exam or say a question, it's out to the back of your notes? So in back at the exam paper, you write down your points. So when you come back,
No, I don't do that.
you don't do that.
Immediately,
Immediately you see the question,
question,
you
I just
answer.
answer it straight up.
What if you don't boot during
I
exams?
I don't, but I also trust that God, anything I write is the correct thing.
Correctly. So always have confidence in God. So the next question is, do you have a process for analyzing your exam results to improve your performance maybe in your next exams?
Ever since I got my first 5.0, I've been
Okay.
using the same technique since that time. So I never have, and I make sure I use that technique. I read every single day. That's the technique. I read every single day,
Day.
and I read based on my timetable, right? I just look back. Sometimes especially when I don't get a good test score,
Okay.
I try to look at what I did wrong, because
Okay.
most times the mistake is on our part, right? Not always on the lecturer's side.
Okay.
So I think back, what was I doing between this period?
You
Is it that
reflect.
I reflect? Is it that I didn't have time to read? Is it that I was lazy? And I make
So you
sure
get
I
lazy
don't.
at some point.
Yeah, I
I don't
do.
think I was expecting that from a 5.0 student. So
I'm a human being, so
okay. So you reflect back and see
yeah,
how you can improve
yeah.
on it. Okay, so our next question will be, is there a particular way you study or what routine do you use to prepare for your exams? And what technique is more effective for you as a student?
So I've said it before. What I do personally is that I read a slide of the notes. I take that slide away. I try to remember and understand what I just read. Then I write it down in my own words. So I've basically remembered the same thing 3 times in 1 minute.
Okay.
So that keeps what I read in my long-term memory. That's the
Okay.
technique I use.
So the next question, I feel this one is very compulsory for everybody to know. Do you study alone or in a group? And if it's in a group, what is the benefit and what are those challenges you face again? Because reading with a group can actually, okay, this person doesn't agree with you, I can maybe lead to a disagreement. So it's happened to me before, maybe as I'm asking. So I'm saying, do you read alone and do you read with your group or you just read personally?
I read alone most
Okay.
times. Most times I read alone. And if I don't understand something or I'm not able to understand something, that's when I go and meet a friend to explain to me. So group study is not something I'm a fan of,
Okay.
but it's good for some people, but it's not me.
Very
It doesn't
good.
work for me. I prefer to read alone.
So think you
So
can get everything you do because I think group studying is for you to be able to, oh, okay, I don't, you can get an idea from someone for you
yeah,
to like enhance your understanding. But you said it doesn't work for you.
it doesn't just work for me. I don't know. It
So
doesn't work
that
for me.
goes back to you knowing yourself.
Yeah, know
Does this
yourself.
work for you? Does this not work for you?
Yeah.
And okay, so this next question says, how do you prioritize different subjects or topics while studying? Like studying. So obviously there are some topics that might be bigger than another. So how do you prioritize them?
Well, which subjects don't I understand very well right now? That's when I prioritize. I put it on top of my list. This is what I'm
Okay.
reading first
So is there one like this
because
year level?
a few,
Okay.
yeah. What don't I really understand, or the teacher, what the lecturer teaches
Yeah.
that I don't really understand. So you have to. So that's what I do basically. I prioritize the subject that I don't fully understand.
Okay. So this person is saying, do you have a reading timetable and can
Yeah.
you share with us?
Yay. Okay, so people have asked me about this my timetable, and sometimes I'm scared to show it to people because it's very hectic, right?
So if you it can work,
Busy.
maybe work for someone else, it can only work for you.
You can do it if you're bold enough and if you can persevere, right?
Okay.
Because sometimes I can read for a very long period of time, like I'm talking 8 hours
Straight.
straight.
No break.
Yes, no break.
But how do you
So
balance it? Because you obviously go to classes,
yeah,
you have this activity. I'm sure
yeah,
you're maybe in some communities.
okay.
So how do you balance it? It as I start with class,
Yeah,
we have 24 hours in the day. So
yeah.
you're using 8 hours to read. How
Mm-hmm.
do you balance it?
Oh, number one, I don't read 8 hours every day.
Okay.
I don't read 8 hours. Only days that I know that I don't have much other things to do,
Okay.
right? So for my timetable, right, there are always gaps between lectures,
Okay.
like
Very
maybe
good.
1 hour, 2 hours. There are always gaps. So I use those time slots very well. I go to the library, read, and go for my next class. That's how I do it. Yeah.
You know those hours I spent to like really pick a break.
Is this why I said my technique might not work for a lot of people. My technique is one that is for me, like, and it works for me. Yeah, and it's something I can do because I'm someone that can persevere, right? So it might not work for everybody. So know yourself. Know how long you can last while reading.
But would you think able to share with the person just in case to work for them?
Okay,
So maybe
in
you
case it
share with
works
the
for you.
person like the IT.
Okay, so let's say you have a class by 8 to 10, and then after 10 you have a break. You have no lecture between 10 and 11. I go to the library and I read. Then I come back to the class lectures. So basically, I just use up the times that the free period I have, and I listen attentively in class as well. Yeah.
So you know many people be like those with 5.0 results, people socialize and just chill. You don't have friends, you don't talk to anybody, you just stay in their book. And they tend to look at them like you don't have something called life. Like
Hmm.
you can't enjoy something. So is it the same for you or it's opposite?
No, it's not the same for me. Um, to shock you that people are very surprised when you see me playing games.
Game.
Yeah, games.
I
People are
was
like,
expecting that.
you play game. So it's not always nerdy and no social life, no talking to people. You need friends. You need to socialize. You're a human being. Like it's more than life is more than academics, obviously. So you need to social. You have to socialize. So so
I
yeah.
think like some communities were in and okay, 6 10.
Yeah.
What are the community in covenants?
Me and my friends, right? About 7 of us, we have a group on Telegram, like just for us, like a friend group, where we just chill, talk and stuff and things like that. So
So you can be serious inside the social life. You
it's
don't
very
always have
possible.
to appear. You can be very, very, very a fun person.
Yeah,
And you can still have that good results,
yeah.
results.
Mhm.
I'm going to give you a quick example for you. So you're thinking, I want to study my academics, I can't talk to anybody, that's it. There's something called balancing it and achieving it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So now that we've come to the end of asking people's question, they sent in the question, we've asked Daniel. Now it's time to ask my own question. So you said something of being a child of God is a big advantage for you in
Yeah.
academics. You know, there's so many people that believe that if I go to church, I'm meant to be studying by this time. Like, how can I balance it? I
Yeah.
don't want to be distracted by the things of God or something like that. Do you think it's a distraction, or what do you think about it?
No, the
Okay.
the Christianity is not a distraction in any way. It's not at all. I mean, it even helps you in your academics in different aspects of your life. So it's very, very important. So if you want to balance it, only the time management. For example, on Saturday, you have to go for chaplaincy meeting by
Yeah.
6:30. So you plan it by 8. What am I doing? Maybe family meeting as well. So just make sure that the times you set apart for reading, make sure you read and focus while you're reading. Those are the two main important things.
And we've come to the end of today's TICU online mentorship program, where you've asked your questions and we've asked our lovely guest here, Daniel, and he has answered all questions, including my questions. And you know, the motto of TICU says failure is not an option. So it is very much possible for you to balance your life in your academics, your spiritual life, and even your social life, and nothing can distract you. You having a relationship with God doesn't mean a distraction. You having friends and socializing with them doesn't mean distraction. And you can always get your 5.0 result. And so with this interview, we're waiting for you and your success story. I remain Editor, and my guest here is.
Ogunyakin Daniel.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode, and I hope it bless you. Bye.